The acceptance email arrived on a Tuesday in March, and Lila Carter read it 3 times before she believed it. Princeton, pre-med, full need-based aid pending, but the seat was hers. She was sitting at the kitchen table, her laptop open beside a half-eaten bowl of cereal, when the words finally sank in. 4 years of waking at 5:30 for track practice. 4 years of tutoring kids on weekends for extra cash. 4 years of skipping parties and dances and everything normal teenagers did. It had actually meant something. She was about to scream for her parents when the front door slammed. Skylar walked in first, her coat draped over one arm, her face pale in that deliberate way she had, the kind that made people lean in and ask if she was okay. Their mother Elena followed, clutching a stack of papers, her eyes red. Their father Mark came last, his work tie loosened, his jaw set like he was bracing for something. Lila closed her laptop. "We need to talk," Elena said, and the words landed in the kitchen like a stone dropped into still water. They sat down. Skylar didn't sit so much as fold herself into a chair, one hand resting on her stomach, the other pressing against her collarbone. Stage 4 ovarian cancer, her mother said. The doctor had confirmed it that afternoon. Treatment would start immediately. Chemotherapy, possibly surgery, specialist visits in Seattle. The words came out in a rush, and Elena kept reaching for Skylar's hand, kept brushing the hair back from her face. And Lila watched her sister accept the attention the way a plant accepts sun. "I'm so sorry," Lila said, and she meant it at first. She reached across the table, but Skylar flew, and Elena shot Lila a look that said, "Don't cry." That was the first small, almost unnotable. Lila pulled her hand back. Her father cleared his. "We've been going over the finances. The treatment isn't cheap. Even with insurance, we're looking at out-of-pocket costs we didn't plan." He paused, glanced at Lila's closed laptop. "The college? We're going to have to redirect it. For now. Lila heard the word and knew it meant forever. The college fund wasn't just a number in a savings account. It was the account her parents had opened the day she... The one they'd told her was for whatever school she earned her way into. It was her housing, her ticket out of Portland and into the life she'd built one study session. Princeton offered, said, her voice smaller than she wanted. Need-based. I could apply for more. I could take out loans. Skylar needs us right now. Elena cut sharp. This isn't a negotiation, Lila. You're sick. Skylar looked up then, hurting. I don't want to be the reason you can't go, she said, and her voice cracked perfectly, the way it always did when she... If it's too much, just don't say that, I said, and she was crying now, holding Skylar's hand. We are going to take care of you. Everything can wait. Lila, her acceptance, her future, it could all wait because Skylar was sick, and Skylar being sick meant Sky came first, and Lila was suddenly the selfish daughter for even mentioning her own life at a... She said okay. She watched her parent, her sister, and she felt the kitchen get smaller, the air get thinner, and she stood with a cold, sinking clarity that she lost. That and sleep. At 2 a.m, she got up to get a glass of water and passed Skylar's bedroom. The door was cracked. Inside, Skylar was on her phone, laughing softly on the screen. No pain, no fatigue, just the blue glow of a screen and a girl who looked, every way that mattered, fine. Anything. She went to the bathroom, and she saw them. 2 prescription bottles on the edge of the still sealed. The stickers unpeeled, oxycodone, Ancitron. Drugs for chemo patients, neither one opened. She picked one up. The date on them was 3 days ago, slowly. In the medicine cabinet behind the mirror, she found Skylar's old phone, the one she'd claimed months ago. It still had battery, and Lila turned it on. The home screen was bare except for a she didn't recognize. One labeled Wellness. The icon grayed out like it had been deleted, erased. Over it. Somewhere in the Skylar laughed again. Lila pulled her and it opened. The folder was empty, or at least, it looked empty at first. Just a gray screen with a loading spinner that never finished. Lila stood in the bathroom with the door locked, her heart hammering, and she pressed the screen again, harder, like she could force the truth out of a dead phone. Nothing. She deleted the evidence of her snooping, put the phone back exactly where she'd found it, and told herself she was imagining things. That was the first week. By the second, she wasn't imagining anything anymore. Skylar's transformation was meticulous. She posted on Instagram every other day, blurry selfies from hospital beds that Lila later recognized as the urgent care waiting room. Captions about fighting hard and staying strong. Hashtags that drew strangers from all over the country to leave heart emojis and prayer hands. The local community Facebook group lit up with meal train sign-ups. Neighbors dropped off casserole. The church organized a fundraiser. People Lila had known her whole life looked at her in the grocery store and said, "How's your sister holding up?" And never once asked how Lila was. No one asked about Prince. Lila tried at first. She sat her parents down at the kitchen table and laid out the facts. The unopened prescriptions, the time, the way Skylar could run up the stairs when she thought no one was watching. She spoke calmly, the way she'd learned to argue in debate, with evidence and structure and no raised voice. Her mother listened with her arms crossed. When Lila finished, "Elena, I don't even recognize you right. I'm just saying, your sister is dying. Lila, and you're standing here counting pill bottles like some kind of..." Her voice shook. "What is wrong?" Her father didn't look up from his... "Your mother, right. This isn't time. Whatever you're doing, you need to put it aside for your..." I got into... And the words came out harder than she intended. And nobody has even said congratulations. Nobody has asked me about the deposit deadline, which isn't... The deposit... Wait, said. I can't wait. I miss it. I lose it, said, and the kitchen quiet. She immediately looked full, reached across the table, but Lila... Sorry, I didn't mean that. But Skylar's life comes first. You have to understand that. Lila understood it. What she couldn't understand was why no one else could see what was wrong. The gaslighting got after that. Her parents started calling old. Ambition had made her said, and they said it in front of relatives, at family dinners, like it was a diagnosis they were helping. When Skylar had a bad day and needed Elena to drive her to yet another appointment, Lila was told to cancel her tutoring sessions to... When Lila mentioned student loans, her father waved it off. Later, we'll figure it out later. The deposit deadline. Lila had saved $4,000 from tutoring, enough for the enrollment day. She'd hidden it in an envelope closet, cash she'd withdrawn slowly over months so no one would notice. On the morning of the deadline, she went to get it, and she found her mother. "Did you take them from my closet?" Elena didn't even pretend to be confused. Sky had a new wig. The chemo is making her hair thin, and she was sad about it. That was a deposit. That was bad. "Pay you back," Elena said. But she wouldn't. Lila's eyes settled down. Lila called Princeton's admissions afternoon. The woman on the phone was polite, professional, and moved. Without the deposit, the offer was forfeited. Lila could reapply next year, she said. Lila hung up and sat on her bedroom time. The house was empty. Her parents had taken Skylar to a suburban town. When she finally stood up, she got in her car and drove, not knowing where, until she found herself in the parking lot of the mall. She was about to leave when her car. It was parked at the food court entrance, and Skylar was laughing. She was with two friends from high school, girls last seen in months, and all three of them were sharing a giant lens. Skylar took a bite, wiped salt from her fingers, and tossed her head back when her friend said something funny. Nausea, no wig. Her hair was full and shiny, ponytail. Lila watched from her car. Her hands gripping the steering wheel, knuckles went white. Skylar said something, louder. Skylar pulled out her phone, held it, and took a selfie. Pale face, sad eyes, the caption already forming on her screen. Post. Car and drive. She didn't confirm. Not yet. But she knew with absolute certainty that she was an invisible daughter. Lila didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying the image of Skylar laughing in the parking lot, the pretzel salt on her fingers, the easy way she'd switched from healthy girl to tragic patient in the time it took to lift a phone. By morning, she had a plan. She started small. She took screenshots of every social media post Skylar made, the hospital selfies, the gratitude captions, the carefully curated weakness, and cross-referenced them with the days Skylar claimed to be in treatment. She built a spreadsheet, the way she'd built spreadsheets for AP biology lab reports, with dates and locations and symptoms, and the glaring inconsistencies between them. On March 14th, Skylar posted from a hospital bed at 9 a.m. Lila found a friend's Snapchat story from the same day showing Skylar at a coffee shop at noon, holding a latte. On March 22nd, Skylar wrote about unbearable chemo brain. Her Netflix account showed she'd binged an entire season of a show that night. It was a start, but it wasn't enough. Screenshots of social media could be explained away. Lila needed something official. The family doctor was a man named Dr. Patel, who'd been treating the Carters since Lila was 5. Lila called his office on a Tuesday, her voice steady, and asked for a copy of her own medical record. Standard procedure, she said, for college health form. While she was at it, she asked if she could also request her sister's records. since their mother had asked her to handle it. The receptionist hesitated, then said Skylar was over 18, so Lila would need a signed release. Lila hung up. She thought about forging the signature, then discarded the idea. Too risky, and if this ever went to court, it would be thrown out. Instead, she went to her mom. Skylar's insurance paperwork came in the mail, Lila said, holding up a random envelope she'd found. I need her to sign a release so I can file the appeal for the treatment cost. Dr. Patel's office said they need it by Friday. It was a lie, but a clean. Elena, overwhelmed and grateful for any help, didn't question. She found Skylar, explained the situation, and Skylar, bored, distracted, already on her own, signed the form without reading. Lila submitted the request that afternoon. 3 days later, the records arrived in a plain manila envelope. Lila took it to her room, locked her, and opened it with a letter. Her hands were shaking too hard to hold. She flipped through the page. Annual physicals, a flu shot, a sprained ankle from sophomore year, a prescription for birth control. That was it. No oncology referrals, no biopsy results, no blood work showing cancer markers, no chemotherapy orders, no specialists. The word cancer didn't appear anywhere. Lila sat with the papers spread across her bed, and for a long time she felt just a quiet, haughty, like the moment before a thunderstorm when the air goes completely still. Proof. She had the thing she'd been telling her needed, and it changed nothing and everything. She called Dr. Patel back, more boldly this time, and asked if Skylar had been referred to any specialists outside. The receptionist at the system. No referrals, no outside records sent, nothing on file since the last visit. Lila. That evening, she went through Skylar's phone again, the one in the cabinet, the one Skylar. This time was more careful. She went through the deleted messages, browser history, the Notes app, and in a folder buried under 3 layers of deleted items, she found it. A note, dated November 3rd, 4 months before the diagnosis. 2 weeks before Lila submitted her early action app to Princeton, was a list. Need. Doctor's note. Urgent care. Say I have symptoms. Wig or just thin naturally? Power page. Tell mom first, I'll handle everything. Timing is everything. Do it right. When Lila hears back, Lila read it 3 times. Then she read it again, because the words didn't make sense. It wasn't just that Skylar was being sick. She'd planned it, chosen the timing. She'd known exactly when Lila's acceptance would arrive, and she'd built her entire it. The last line of the note made Lila's blood run cold. Leave. If she leaves, I am. Was the phone. Outside her window, the neighborhood was quiet. Lawns, streetlights, a highway. Somewhere in the house, her sister was sleeping peacefully, untroubled, unaware that her carefully constructed lie had just on hands. Lila picked up her own a new note. She titled it Evidence. She was no longer defending herself. She was preparing to attack. The note changed everything. Lila had gone into her investigation believing her sister was selfish, impulsive, someone who'd grabbed an opportunity when it appeared. What she found instead was a strategy. She spent the next week digging. She went through the family mail, the email accounts Skylar had left logged into the home computer, the bank statements her parents kept in a filing cabinet in the office. The picture that emerged was worse than anything she'd imagined. The hospital bills were real paper but fake charges. Lila called the billing department at Oregon Health and Science University and gave them the account number on one of the statements. The woman on the line was confused. There's no patient under that name, she said. That account number doesn't exist in our system. Lila thanked her and hung up. Skylar had designed the bills herself, probably from a template online, and left them on the kitchen counter for their parents to find. The test results were worse. Lila found a PDF in Skylar's laptop trash folder, a lab report from a company she'd never heard of, with blood work showing elevated CA-125 levels, the marker for ovarian cancer. The report looked official. Letterhead, doctor's signature, everything. But when Lila called the lab, they told her the report number was invalid. The doctor's name on the signature line? A real oncologist in Seattle, but one who'd never treated anyone named Skylar Carter. She'd forged every single page and the money. Lila added it up on a calculator, and the number made her feel sick. The college fund, $42,000 gone. The GoFundMe page Skylar's friends had set up, nearly $18,000 in donations. The church fundraiser, another $6,000. The meal train, the gift cards, the cash envelopes neighbors had pressed into Elena's hand. Lila couldn't track all, but the total was easily over $70,000. $70,000 for a disease that didn't exist. She found where some of it had. Skylar's Venmo history showed payments to a tattoo parlor, a concert ticket reseller, a boutique clothing store downtown. There was a weekend trip to Las Vegas in February, charged to a credit card their parents had opened for medical emergencies. Skylar had posted about being too weak to get out of bed that same weekend. Lila sat at the kitchen table with all of it spread of her. Prints, screenshots, phone records, the forged lab report, and she finally... This wasn't about jealousy, not exactly. It was fear. Skylar was failing. She'd dropped 3 classes senior year, flunked the essay twice, and had no plan for after. Lila, her sister, was about to leave for an Ivy League school and become the success story their parents had always wanted. If Lila left, the spotlight would Skylar, and everyone would say, a girl with ambition, action. The cancer wasn't just a way to steal Lila's tuition. It was a way to make herself the center of the story forever, to make failure like suffering, to make Lila's success loyalty, Lila's aching. She thought about parents, about laying it all out and waiting for them. But she'd happen. Embarrassed. They'd want to handle it quietly, protect the family name, sweep it under the rug. Skylar would cry, and I would forgive her. And Mark would say for help. And Lila would be the one who... No, this time. The annual spring community dinner day. It was a treat in their neighborhood. Everyone gathered at the community center, potluck style, and the Carters all able. Skylar had already told be there. It holds out, and the whole town was expecting a brave girl. Lila was. Just not the we're expecting. She had a portable printer. She had copies of everything. The medical records, the fake bills, the Venmo transactions, number. She organized them into a folder, tabbed and color-coded, the way she'd organized her collections. She practiced what she would say, not because she needed a script, but because she needed to make sure. The night before the dinner, she sat on her folder. Her parents were in the living room, watching a movie with Skylar, their voice in the hall. Lila Skylar laughing. She picked up her phone and texted best friend Maya, the only person who'd never act. Tomorrow, she typed. I'm ending this, Maya texted back immediately. Are you sure? Stared at the message. She thought about Princeton, a deposit she'd missed, about the 4 years of her life a lie. She thought about the note, she can't leave, and she felt something in her chest. She typed, I'm sure. She set the phone down and turned off the light. Oh, the truth would come out. And nothing in the Carter family would ever be the same. The community center smelled like pot roast and lemon pledge. Folding tables were arranged in rows, covered in checkered tablecloths, and the room hummed with the kind of small-town chatter that passes for news in suburbs like theirs. Lila stood by the dessert table holding a folder, and she watched her sister work the room. Skylar was in her element. She wore a soft pink sweater and a headscarf, even though her hair was as thick as ever, and she moved slowly, leaning on their mother's arm like every step cost her. Neighbors stopped her to hug her, to press their hands to her shoulders, to tell her how brave she was. Skylar accepted it all with a fragile smile and a quiet thank you, and Lila watched her father stand a little taller beside them, proud of his sick daughter's courage. No one looked at Lila. That was fine. She wasn't there for the attention. When the dinner ended and the MC tapped a fork against a glass, the room settled. He asked if anyone wanted to say a few words, and of course Skylar's hand went up, weak, trembling, just enough to be noticed. The room went quiet as she stood. I just want to say thank you, Skylar said, her voice catching. To everyone. The meals, the cards, the prayers. I don't know how I'd get through this without all of you. She paused, wiped a tear. And to my family, especially my mom and dad. And my sister Lila, she's been dealing with it in her own way. A murmur of sympathy rippled through the room. Several people glanced at Lila with that look. The one that said, we know you're not handling this, but we forgive you and... Lila stood up. I'd like to say something too, she said, and her voice was clear, louder than she expected. The room... Her mother's smile... Skylar's hand froze mid... Lila walked to the front of the... She set the folder on the MC's table and... My sister doesn't have cancer. The silence that followed was Someone dropped... Her father said, low and... She doesn't have... Lila repeated. I have her medicals. I called I call lab. There is no diagnosis, no treatment, no specialist. Every bill, every test result, every hospital selfie. She started passing out. Neighbors took them reluctantly, confused, then... The room filled with the rustle of paper and the quiet intake. Not true, Skylar said, and her voice was sharp now, no fragility in it. Lying. She's always been jealous of me. What? Learn to her. Jealous that you dropped high school? Jealous that you failed the SAT twice? Jealous that you had no plan for your life, so you decided to ruin mine instead? She held up her note. I found your old phone. You planned it. 4 months before your diagnosis, you wrote down exactly how you'd do it. Timing's everything, you said. Do it right when Lila hears back. Sky's face went white. That's went through my phone? No, right. I have no records, Lila said, and she passed those out too. Las Vegas in February, a tattoo parlor, concert tickets, all while you were supposedly bedridden from chemo. I have the GoFundMe totals. I have the college fund statements. $70,000, Skylar. $70,000 you don't have. The room was chaos now. People were talking over each other, pointing at papers, looking at Sky Stranger. Their mother stood frozen, her mouth open, staring at her hand. Their father sat down in a folding chair, and Lila saw something in his never seen before, not anger. Mother looked around the room, and for a second, Lila's calculation happened. The way her sister's eyes did from face to face, searching for someone who would still believe her. She found no one. The headscarf slipped, fixing it. You did this, Skylar said, and her voice cracked, but not in a performative way this time. You ruined everything. You had to be the best. You had to win. Look what you did. I didn't do anything, Lila said. You did this to yourself, Skylar screamed then, a real raw sound that off the cinder block walls. She ran out of the community center, slamming behind her. Their mother started to follow, then stopped, looking at the papers in her hand, then at Lila, then at the door. She didn't move. Lila stood at the front of the room, and the neighbors looked at her, and she felt nothing. Not triumph, not relief, just a ringing silence, like the moment after a bell stops ringing, and you realize the sound has been going on so what quiet was. And walked out. In the parking lot, Skylar was leaning against her car, gasping. Oh, Lila, she straightened. I will never forgive you, Skylar said, and her eyes were black with dread. You think you won? You just family you have. Lila got in her car and drove. She didn't look back. Behind her, the community center lights blazed, and the Twigo was already talking. 2 years is both a long time and no time at all. Lila learned that in the months after the dinner. The first weeks were the worst. The silence in the Carter house, the way her parents couldn't look at her without flinching, the way they couldn't look at Skylar without flinching either. Skylar moved out 3 days after the exposure, crashing on a friend's couch, then another friend's, then a boyfriend's apartment that didn't last. The GoFundMe money had to be paid back. The church asked for its donation returned. Neighbors who'd brought casseroles now crossed the street when they saw a Carter coming. Lila retook the SAT in June. She scored higher. She applied to 10 schools, all with rolling admissions, and by August she had a full merit scholarship to the University of Washington's Honors College, pre-med, biology track, not Princeton, but real, and hers, and no one could take it away. She moved to Seattle in a rented U-Haul with a futon, a box of books, and a duffel bag of clothes. Her parents helped her load the truck. Neither of them said much. Her father hugged her at the end awkwardly and said, I'm proud of you. Her mother cried and said, I'm sorry. Lila accepted both and didn't know what to do with either. Seattle was gray and wet and beautiful in a way Portland wasn't. She got a job at a campus coffee shop, worked 20 hours a week and studied the rest. She made friends. Maya transferred up from a community college in Oregon and rented a place nearby. And for the first time in her life, Lila wasn't competing with anyone. She was just living. She called home once a week. Her father answered more often than her. They talked about classes, about the weather, about nothing. Skylar's name never came up. Leela didn't. Her parents didn't. What she heard came in fragments, through Maya, through old high school friends, through the grapevine that still hummed in their home. Skylar had dropped out. She'd gotten a job at a retail store mall. Then she'd gotten another, then lost two. She'd gained a reputation, not for the cancer likely, because people in Lake Oswego didn't talk about it openly, but for being unreliable, for borrowing money and not paying it back, for showing up to parties drunk and crying about how her sister had ruined her life. People felt sorry for her in the abstract and avoided her. Their parent lied at. They'd paid therapy, for a community college enrollment Skylar attended, for rent on a small apartment Skylar abandoned after. Elena called Skylar every Sunday. Skylar answered at the time. The other half, she'd show up at the house at morning, drunk or high or desperate, and Elena let her in. And Mark would sit in the living room and anything. and by morning Skylar. Lila heard all of this, felt nothing, or told herself nothing. She was building something new. She had a 3-point GPA. She had a research position in a molecular biology lab. She had a small apartment in Capitol Hill with fire escape and a view of the Puget Sound. She was fine. She was fine, and tonight she wasn't. It was a Thursday in late October. Lila had a meeting the next day, and she was up late reviewing cell respiration pattern. A soft, hesitant. Not the aggressive rap drunk neighbor. Not the buzz of building intercom. Just 3 quiet taps like the person on the other side wasn't there. Her phone. No one she knew came over this late first. She got up, walked to the door, and Skylar was away. She looked small and remembered. Her hair was longer, unstyled, the ends split. She wore a coat that was too thin for October in Seattle. Her eyes were red, and when she realized Lila was out of the door, she started crying. Not the performative sobs Lila remembered the cancer days, but quiet, aching tears. The kind of. Lila didn't open the door. She stood with her hand on the deadbolt and listened to her sister cry in the hall of her apartment building. And for a second she was 17 again, standing in the kitchen, watching her parents surround a girl in her future. Lila, Skylar said, voice muffled through the wood. I know you're in there. I know you hate me and I blame you, but I need to, please. Made on the lock. Her heart was hammering. She'd imagined the moment for 2 years. Rehearsed, dreaded it, if she'd be ready. She wasn't ready. I've been thinking, Skylar continued, and her voice about everything. About what I did. About Princeton and the money and the note and all of it. I can't sleep. I can't keep doing this. I just need 5 minutes, that's all. 5 minutes, and then I'll leave. Never bother you again. The hallway light buzzed. A door closed. Lila pressed her forehead and closed her eyes. She had built this life carefully, brick by brick, choice by choice. 2 years of silence and becoming someone new. And now her sister was on the other side of a door, asking to be let in. And Lila understood with a terrible clarity opening it would change everything. Not Skylar deserved forgiveness, but because Lila had spent 2 years running from the she was capable of. She took a breath. She unlocked the deadbolt. The door swung open, and Skylar stood there, broken and trembling, and Lila's charactered silence was over. Skylar didn't come inside right away. She stood in the doorway, dripping rainwater onto Lila's welcome mat, and looked at her sister like she was waiting to be slapped. Lila stepped aside and let her in. The apartment was small, a living room with a futon, a kitchen the size of a closet, a bedroom door half open showing a desk stacked with textbooks. Skylar stood in the middle of it and wrapped her arms around herself. Nice place, she said. Sit down. Lila closed the door but didn't lock it. She sat on the futon and gestured to the only chair. Skylar sat, perched on the edge, her hands folded in her lap. For a minute, neither of them spoke. The rain tapped against the window. Somewhere downstairs, a dog barked. I'm sorry, Skylar said finally, and the words came out raw, like they'd been sitting in her throat for years. I know that doesn't mean anything. I know I don't get to say it and make it better. But I am. I'm so sorry, Lila. Lila said nothing. She watched her sister's hands. They were shaking, and there was a faint tremor in her jaw. And Lila realized this was the first time she'd ever seen Skylar genuinely afraid. Not performing fear. Not manufacturing vulnerability. Just scared. I was jealous, Skylar continued. And she was crying now, quietly, tears running down her face without her wiping them. I was so jealous of you. You were good at everything. School, track, everything. I was nothing. I couldn't even graduate. And Mom and they looked at you like you were the future. And they looked at me like I was a problem they were waiting to go. She swallowed. So I made myself into a problem they couldn't ignore. The cancer. It wasn't just about the money. It was about being mean. For the first time in my life, everyone was looking at me, and they were nice to me, and they cared. I liked it so much and when I saw what it was doing, I told myself you'd be fine. You're smart. You'd figure something out. You do. Lila listened. She'd interrupt. She let her talk. And as she did, she felt something she had expected. Not anger, not sympathy, but a strange, distant understood it. Not the lie, cruelty, but the fear underneath it. The terror of being ordinary, the hunger to be loved. She'd felt it too. That drive to achieve, to be perfect, to earn a... The difference was that Lila had channeled into work. Skylar had channeled destruction. Lost everything, Skylar said. All my friends, the town. Mom and Dad look at me like I'm broken glass. I can't keep a job. I can't keep a boyfriend. I go to these AA meetings. Well, they're not AA. They're compulsive lying. Can you? And I sit there and I listen to people about their bottom, and I think mine. This is my bottom, and it's all because to you. She looked up. I'm not asking you to pretend it didn't happen. I'm not asking you to be my sister again like nothing was wrong. I'm just asking, can we ever be anything? Can you ever not hate me? Because I can't live with you hating me. I can't. The question hung in the room. Lila had imagined this conversation 100 times in the last 2 years, and in every been ready. She'd had speeches prepared, boundaries drawn, a whole arsenal of self-protection. But sitting here, in her small apartment, with her broken in front of her, about Princeton, about the acceptance email she'd read 3 times, about the $4,000 in cash that had disappeared from her closet, about the community center, and the Skylar screaming, and the way their father had sat down in that folding chair and out, about the note. She can't leave. If she leaves, ever see what I really am. I don't you, Lila said, and her voice she expected. Skylar looked up, across her face. But I don't trust you, Lila continued. And the hope faded. I don't think I ever will. Not fully. What you did, it wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. You planned it. You chose to destroy my future because you were scared of yours. I know that. Skylar nodded. Tears fell. I forgot, Lila said. And the words surprised her even as she said, not because you deserve it. Because holding on to it is killing me. Because I'm tired of being angry. Because I want to be free. Not because I hate you. But because I need to carrying what you did. She leaned forward. For the first time in 2 years, she looked directly in the eyes. But forgiveness isn't the same as letting you back in. I'm not going to be your sister the way we were. I'm not going to call you every week, or have you over for holidays, or pretend we're family. I'll be civil. I'll answer your texts. I'll be kind. But that's all. I have to protect the life, and you're not part of it. Skylar sat with it for a long time. She nodded slowly and stood up. Okay, she said. Okay, that's more than I deserve. The door. Lila walked with her. At the threshold, Skylar. Thank you, she said. For opening the door. For listening, for... Lila nodded. She did say I love you. Stood there. And Skylar stood there. And for a second, they were just 2 sisters in a hallway, the way they'd been 1,000 times before, turned and walked away. Lila Clare. She locked. She stood with her back against it and listened to the footsteps fade all, to the elevated silence that followed. She didn't cry. She felt triumphant. She felt, in a way she hadn't in years, like a weight she'd been carrying so long finally been set down. Walked to the window and looked out at the rain. Seattle was gray and wet and beautiful, and it was hers. She thought of the girl who'd sat at a kitchen table 2 years ago, reading an acceptance email 3 times, felt a strange tenderness for her. The girl had believed hard work or justice. This one knew better, knew that justice was messy, that forgiveness was a choice you made for yourself, that family was not something you were born into. She picked up her phone and texted. It's done, she typed. Maya texted back. You okay? Lila looked at the rain, at the cities, at the light stretching out in fur. Uncertain, cold, entirely her. She typed. I'm okay. She set the phone down and went back to textbooks. The midterm was tomorrow. Rain kept falling, and somewhere in the city, her sister was walking away, and Lila was letting her go, was over.